Leaked roughly 1 year ago, and mainly described by a Reddit user whose post has been deleted, Spellbound could be our next Fromsoftware game, set to be released in early 2025. Others have said that they could be working on a PS5 exclusive. However, the details for this one are non-existent. Unlike Spellbound, which has been described as a magic-focused game, with an open world smaller than Elden Ring's, but a single legacy dungeon that is bigger than Volcano Manor, Stormvale Castle, Leyndell, Farum Azula, Miquella's Halig Tree, and Raya Lucaria Academy combined. I'm already getting overwhelmed by nightmares of 7 branching paths where you choose one and that leads you to 10 more branching paths. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. The source for all of this information is basically trust me bro. And either way, we are not here to discuss leaks, but to think of what Elden Ring's features we want back, or to disappear regarding the release of any new titles of theirs. Starting with my first don't do this ever again, let's mention the overall boss recycling. One of the biggest letdowns in Elden Ring was to fight recycled boss fights. Fromsoftware is known for designing amazing bosses, who you get to fight while listening to a badass soundtrack. Unfortunately, we cannot say the same about the dungeons and caves. What's the point of the Misbegotten plus Crucible Knight fight? There's nothing left here after Radahn. Even before that moment, it is pointless because you need the festival to happen in order to unlock Radahn's fight. Why is there a copy and paste Wolf of Radagon in Noxtella? Are you not happy with a random dungeon NPC used for a fight? Here, take 2 instead. What about one random open map enemy as a boss? No? Well, it's too late now. I like having good quality content. Repetitive content makes players get bored of the game faster, so please, I would love to see a more meaningful world, maybe smaller but packed with original and fun content. Not a huge map bloated with repeated boss fights every step of the way. Dragons? I don't mind. They are out in the open and can be ignored, but having to go through a whole catacomb just to fight my 5th ulcerated tree spirit or a duo of a misbegotten and a perfumer is infuriating to say the least. Now, as my first please keep this for future games feature, NPC summons with dialogue.
I will riddle with holes your rotten hide, with a hail of harpoons, with every last drop of my being.
Curse You Bale Man has opened our eyes to a new range of possibilities, where FromSoft's summons actually talk. Isn't it weird that not many people have thought about this, like, these guys are lifeless. They just appear, fight for me, and disappear after killing the boss. It is going to be hard to top Egon, or even the Horn Scent, but I would like to see summons feeling more alive from now on. Maybe even speaking outside of a boss fight, like walking around a location where you can summon and they explain some lore to you about what happens there. I think that would be awesome and would also move on from one of the worst ways of storytelling that I have ever seen, which is explaining the lore through item descriptions. For my next negative point, I would say get rid of the lack of replayability. Bloodborne had the Insight system where the servants of the church had differences in their model design, and also had buffs or new attacks, so maybe in your first playthrough you went through the zone with a smaller amount of insight and never got to see this, but now in your second journey you will witness it, since you'll have insight accumulated from before. Hemwick can be visited before or after nightfall, so you can get different perspectives of the place. Above 60 insight, you can hear Murgo crying in the distance at some locations of the map. Even before you kill Rum, I don't think this would ever happen in your first playthrough. In Dark Souls 2, Freya jumpscares you in New Game Plus, attacking you in a location where she didn't spawn before. Red phantoms appear in some locations, the content of some chests change, and as much as I don't like it, some bosses get additional grunts in their boss fights. In Dark Souls 3, stronger versions of the rings you gathered in your first journey appear. Sekiro doesn't do much, but at least there are additional bosses with Shura's ending. And you get to return Kuro's charm, which means you'll take cheap damage if you don't do a perfect deflect on an attack. What do we get in Elden Ring, you say? Nothing, pretty much. There is absolutely nothing that you can only do in New Game Plus. So, my second wish is make a more compelling second journey, or at least bring Bonfire Ascetics back so I can move a zone into New Game Plus and refight a boss that I have enjoyed, since I'll have no other motivation to start from the beginning. Next, keep doing gank NPC fights like this. Those were mostly part of the lowlights of every Souls game. The Dark Souls 2 DLC trio, Half-Light Spear of the Church, Fia's Champions, not a single one of these were fun, until we got to fight Leda and company. The concept behind it is genius. You have this group of characters, meet them, work with them, and eventually find yourselves at an impasse and fight against each other. To tip the scale to your favor, pay attention to side quests, and you might earn yourself some allies along the way. It is brilliant, and I want it back. Screw senseless 1v2s, I want more 4v5s. They are epic, and if they have some lore weight behind it, all the better. I have to admit, I got the shivers when Sir Ansbach made his intro into the fight.
I am Ansbach of the Pure Blood Knights. I stand with blade aloft, blood of fire, for the dignity of my lord and master Moog.
I'm sorry for the interruption, it will be quick. Now during summer, my skin burns like hell. And this useless piece of shit hat doesn't cover anything. One sub, one new hat for me.
For my third negative point, I would like to see less vastly empty zones, which happened mostly in the DLC, specifically in the Cerulean Coast, Karos Hidden Grave, the Finger Ruins, and the Abyssal Woods. In the first three, you can ride Torrent as much as you want, check as many corners as you can see, but all you'll find are random mobs in an open field, mostly those annoying birds that spawn in almost every area of the game, the odd furnace golem, and a few flowers to upgrade summons. That's pretty much it. If you haven't been to the Finger Ruins of Dale, would you believe me if I told you that in the entirety of this zone, there is only a spirit ash, a gesture, and a statue to duplicate remembrances? And I strongly believe those statues have been put there to make these ruins a tiny bit more interesting, instead of being a place where you go to ring the bell for Ymir's quest and that's it. I don't think that is good map design. Even though Miyazaki was quite humble when he said that the map would be the size of Limgrave including the Weeping Peninsula, the design doesn't say the same thing. Of course, it is much bigger than that, on paper, but pragmatically the regions that feel really well designed and nice to explore are the following: Graveside Plain, Ballarat, Castle Ensis, Shadow Altus, Shadow Keep, Ancient Ruins of Ra, and Enir Illen. Pretty much the main areas. The rest, such as the Cerulean Coast, Recluse's River, Abyssal Woods, Shadowview Hinterland, Jagged Peak, and Karos Hidden Grave, feel much like an anime chapter full of flashbacks, also known as just filler. At least Jagged Peak and the Abyssal Wood have awesome boss fights at the end to compensate for it. Following that, I would have tons of fun with a more in-depth armor modifying mechanic. We already got that in Elden Ring, where you can change the appearance of pieces of armor, but there's only one alternative version. I would appreciate something like to change the color, remove or add new parts to them. Basically like in Elden Ring, where the overall damage resistance decreases, and so does the weight, and that would give some usefulness to resources that you find scattered across the world. I've finished Elden Ring 2 times and have never felt the need to craft items. Not for urgency, not for fun, except for some branches to make Nialf's summon fall in love with me and attack him instead. Summarizing, I would definitely go out on a scavenger hunt if it means getting my character's drip in check. The following thing I would like them to get right after Elden Ring is to make weapons more balanced. Some players play Elden Ring to have fun exploring, learn the lore, and kill big things with the help of NPCs and summons, making use of strong weapons because if the boss is OP, why wouldn't I be OP? Other players, like me unfortunately, like to demonstrate they have little going on in their lives by finishing it using any mid to low tier weapons because using anything better is shameful behavior. I'm just joking, guys. I love you all. At any rate, Elden Ring is very popular within the first group of players, who are willing to use whatever they have at their disposal to win the game. The best armor, the best weapons, and me? Well, when I'm bored or have to do a quest, I invade other people. Imagine my surprise when I see everyone is running the same shit over and over. Moonveil, Bloodhound Fang, Blasphemous Blade, Great Swords, Rivers of Blood. You watch a streamer to see their fight against a boss, spam any weapon art of the following weapons: Moonveil, Bloodhound Fang, Blasphemous Blade, Rivers of Blood. Like I've said many times, I don't think these people have a small PP. You don't have to finish the game blindfolded while using a Just Dance rug, fists only level 1 to earn my respect. It's just that it gets too repetitive sometimes. Imagine I am a casual in a game where there are more than 300 weapons, but well, what's this? A Reddit list with the top 10 most broken weapons in the game? Don't mind if I do. The fourth thing that I want them to keep in their future games is going to be quite shorter than the others, but it's basically to continue giving the players the freedom to experiment with their builds. Like in Elden Ring, there are like 18 larval tears in the base game alone, and now with the DLC, it seems that in random locations you'll see the moon shining on a place, and a larval tear will spawn there. And that event has given me 2 tears, so you have 20 resets, and that's a freaking good number, so you can test many builds and enjoy everything the game has to offer, since its arsenal's extent is huge. For the final feature I want to see gone, we have overly cryptic NPC quests. Elden Ring's map is big, there's no denying it. This is one of these games where you can sink 200 hours in it and still find new things. Of course, in Fromsoftware's fashion, there are areas in that huge world that are not necessary to finish the game. For instance, Deep-Root Depths or Miquella's Halig Tree. Also, if you get far enough into some characters' quests, they can spawn in such locations without explicitly telling you where they're going. Miyazaki, it is time to choose. Either no journal/quest tracker or riddles for every damn dialogue line, but you cannot have both. I'm tired of having to check guides online to finish quests. And yes, I already know that the man himself said he thinks using guides is a legal method to beat his games. Me, I want to feel like I finished and sucked the juice out of these games mostly by myself, instead of me and 1,000 Souls YouTubers who upload guides. Don't get me wrong, these guys are doing God's work, but I would rather not depend on them as much. Lastly, keep the grind out of here. Even though Elden Ring is a massive game, I have never felt the need to grind for anything. Not for materials, not for levels, not for key items. Yes, there are some random weapons with a very low drop rate, but I didn't take collecting all these weapons in Elden Ring very seriously, because I only use the same 7 to 8 weapons, and I don't want to go insane collecting 200 and something weapons or objects that I will never use. Some say that the disappearance of the Covenant system was a shame, and partially I think the same. But knowing FromSoft, if it ever returns, the most it will do is lock some charms and spells behind a lock that says, get 50 of this item by killing hosts and return to me to get a useless spell. That is a terrible deal for us completionists, because we are so dumb that even though it is obviously painful to farm NPCs for an hour to get 2 of those 50 items, we can't help it.
Look at this, man. My homie turned into an NPC. What are you doing, man? What's wrong with you? Say something.
Go choke on it. I am about to get this 0.2% drop chance item. You'll see it.
Ah, it looks like he finally got it. Good for you, man. Enjoy. Please, keep the grind out of your games as you're doing now. Nobody, and I mean nobody, likes to spend hours doing the same thing time and time again just to get a helmet that looks the same but is slightly better statistically speaking.
Mongrel intruder.